I'm Allison. Thank you for joining me for Where I'm From 235 with Caitlin. What have you been reading? I've been reading The Outrun by Amy Liptrot, which has been out for a long time, but I have never read. And it's a memoir about a woman who is alcoholic and finds treatment, and then also goes back to the Orkney Islands where she was raised and spends time there sort of self to being a person, a sober person. And I'm finding it to be a beautiful book. Hi, Caitlin.
Hello.
How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm
Wait,
good.
hold
I
on.
already took a nap.
Oh, nice.
I was like, I don't have any. I don't know. I don't know why we do daylight savings. It messes me up.
Oh
So
yeah, I've definitely been messed up all week.
I'm just like, I don't like it. I'm like such a creature of habit. So, I mean, also, I think the world is exhausting. So the combination is not great. Um, but how are you? And have you read this book, The Outrun by Amy Liptrot?
No, but I have seen the movie because I'm a big Jack Loudon fan and
Okay,
Cersei fan.
I'm gonna see the movie after I re anyway, just rereading your poems before we started this book and its sort of exploration of these places that not many people have been or lived in. It just made me think of your poem. It's a
Okay,
little,
so
yeah,
I
yeah,
was
and
actually
being in
just
Alaska,
talking.
you know,
Yeah, I was talking to my husband yesterday about like I've decided we're going to the UK next year. It's already been decided. I don't
nice.
know
I'd like to
when,
go to
but
the
we're
UK.
doing it.
Hmm.
And I read a book called Muckleswugga, which
Uh-huh.
is the name of an actual island in off the coast of Scotland, I believe.
Okay.
And I just absolutely adore that book. It's so like the guy who wrote it was a poet first,
Hmm.
Michael Peterson, and it's just a magical book that I. One of the things I said to someone was that I feel like this is kind of like Call Me by Your Name, except for Northerners.
Oh,
um,
I'll have to check it out because I
and
loved
it's
Call Me by Your Name, and
oh
I
really
mean,
okay.
yeah, I did. I really liked the book. It was a great book. I mean, I liked the movie too, but it
Hmm.
was a beautiful book.
Yeah, Macapoya is different, but it's.
Yeah, and
I
well,
mean,
and I
yeah.
I like reading. I like reading books in places that I probably won't get to. You know what I mean? Like, because realistically,
Yeah.
am I going to make it to the Orkney Islands? Probably not.
Hmm.
So, um,
Probably not.
I also just like reading. I really, even though I live in Los Angeles, I love, I mean, it feels counterintuitive to people, but I really do have a relationship with like the land that we live on and everything.
Hmm.
And so I like reading books that explore each person's relationship with that, because
Yeah.
it's really individual how we relate to it. And I think it helps me stay sane. And so in this book,
Hmm.
it's definitely about that, like her finding sobriety and how being in the place that she's from helps her.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's hitting all my sweet spots. So I think you're going to read two poems today. Is that correct?
Yes, I am prepared.
You did your homework and you came with extra credit. So, which
Yeah, that
one?
sounds like me.
Yeah, I mean, I
Many
don't know you
people will
that well,
attest to
but
that.
you seem like someone who, yes, would definitely do extra credit. So, which do you want to tell why you brought two, or how do you want to do this? It's your
Yeah.
choice.
So when you asked me about this, I thought, oh, I have an I'm from poem, which I published in this book, Stakes, one of my poetry books. And this was the first one. I'm not going to get into the whole like publishing journey right now, but
I mean, you can. It's up to you. I love publishing journeys because I think it's so, I mean, it's a big part of having a book in your hands. Writing is a big part, but the
yeah,
publishing journey is also a big part. So, up
well,
to you.
I'll try to be brief.
Okay.
So I studied, I took one semester of a poetry class in undergrad and enjoyed it. And my professor said good things about my work, but I didn't really think of it as like my thing. Like I always thought I was going to be a novelist, which technically I have written novels and someday maybe some of them will be published, but that's not my focus right now. So anyway, it was just after I graduated from college, I came home and I worked as a small town reporter in my hometown for a couple of years, and found that was really like sapping my creative juices. Like spending all day asking people questions, thinking of questions, writing, left me no like creative writing energy at the end of the day. And I struggled with that for a long time because I'm not making this brief at all. I struggled with that. Classic me. One of my coworkers was also working on a novel, and that was like his thing, and he had no problem doing that after work. And so I thought, like, maybe this is a me thing. I just need to manage my time better. But ultimately, I just realized that, like, no, this is not for me, and I need to do something else. And I think somewhere in that time, I started writing poems again and taking a look at the poetry that I had written that was just sitting on my computer. And I moved from journalism to full-time teaching. Like I went into a master's program for teaching, and then I went to be a teacher. And spring break of that first year teaching at a middle school, I was like, I gotta get these poems out there. Like, I'm tired of my work sitting on my computer, and I was really not enjoying teaching. And so that spring break, I like put together like 4 books of my poetry. And then in April is when I mostly wrote this book. So this book, Stakes, functioned as like my first, like kind of my debut. Like I basically released like 4 books in one day that summer at my local bookstore. But this is the one that was like new, and so everybody was really excited, and it was a great time. And then I guess as part of that, I started Red Sweater Press to publish my own work, but also with the intention of publishing others at some point, which now we are finally doing. A couple years ago, I published a book of poems called Obsolescence by Wisconsin poet Kelly Samuels. And then now we've got this anthology coming out soon on the spelling bee essays, which wearing my bee earrings that Colette got me. Can't see them really. So yeah, that's a little bit about what I have done in the past. And so this poem from Stakes, I just called it From. This one, I think I wrote this like 10 years ago. But if it was that year, I don't know, somewhere between 7 and 10 years ago, I wrote this. Which I will explain a little bit afterwards. But should I read the poem?
Yes, please.
Okay. Water. Also, it's like 8 below at my house today, by the way.
Oh my goodness.
It was 13 below when I woke up this morning. I was like, man, I am so over the negative temperatures. But we're going to Fairbanks this weekend, so it's going to be even colder.
Yeah, wrong direction, Caitlin.
I know. Well, my husband's like whole family lives up there, so
okay.
Like,
okay.
Wow.
Okay.
And we haven't been there in a while, but anyway, this is not about Fairbanks. This is just about Alaska in general. This is called From. I am from here, a home made from scraped knees and a lack of good climbing trees. Summer lakes with leeches and winter trails that keep us busy during the long, cold dark. I am from there, a place you've never been, but would like to visit. An aurora-rimmed wonderland, shining with possibility and the promise of the PSE. I am from nowhere, the beautiful, brutal wasteland where we practice, quote, animal cruelty, unquote, for sport. And addiction deaths are matched only by suicides and sadness, not to mention crimes of teenage passion. I am from Alaska. Thank you.
Yes.
Also, sorry for the light like shining in the window on my door. I don't have anything to cover that.
I think it's more a problem for you than for me. I was like, oh, it's so close to her eyes because I'm bothering her.
The show must go on. I do have, I am used to some of that. But so this poem, as you can tell, has kind of a pretty dark ending, and it comes from, honestly, things that I was reporting on, or that my coworkers were reporting on. So there's I think places that people haven't been to, I don't know. I always struggle with this. So this is one of the few pieces that I've written about Alaska. When I was in my undergrad, I was being pushed like, oh, write about Alaska. That's so cool. And I was so over it. I went to school in Minnesota and I was just like, I need to do anything that's not about Alaska. Like Alaska, I would just struggle with Alaska being super exoticized and not exoticized enough. Like one of my favorite views, so I live in Wasilla-ish. Wasilla is what I consider my hometown. And there's a hill, which wasn't there when I was a kid, but where you go down into like kind of the hub of town. Wasilla doesn't really have a downtown, but there's like a Target and a Fred Meyer and a Goodwill, some big box stores. And at the top of the hill, you see all this like civilization. But then if you look up and around, it's like 360 view of mountains. And so like that's just my favorite illustration of Alaska. And I feel like I'm always trying to get at that. Like, hey, we're really the same as everywhere else, except when we're not.
But not, yeah, yeah.
So I was reporting on the Iditarod 10 years ago, and I had a lot of interesting experiences there. But my editor at the time and publisher sent me up there after the first couple people had already come in, sent me up to Nome, and I had never been there. And the strategy with that was that we knew we were, like, there were so many other bigger newspapers and news outlets that were going to be covering, like, the first finish that were like, let's get the human interest stories and the things that people miss. And so I ended up having, Dallas TV won that year, and I ended up having a 45-minute conversation with him. Like, he won the Iditarod and had already won it a few times, and because everybody had already left, I just, like, sat in the conference center or whatever and chatted with him, and I learned a lot from people that way and got to see how much these mushers, like, really care about their dogs, and
Yes.
How much people don't understand about the Iditarod. And, you know, it has its problems, like any big organization, but those are organizational issues, not like humanity issues.
Right. Right.
And then also in this last stanza talking about, you know, it's dark up here for a long time, and that makes mental health issues prevalent.
Yes.
Sadness I'm also, this poem I think works a little better on the page. I've got sad in all caps for seasonal affective disorder.
Yeah.
And then the crimes of teenage passion referred to, we had a high school boy, and this is my last year at the paper. This is, like I said, 10 years ago. That high school boy was murdered by some other high school boys. And it, like, that case, I feel like has really shaped this community. Like, even still, I mean, I work with someone now who was one of the people who worked at his school and, like, got information from his classmates and about what had happened. And so it's something that I wanted to put into the poem, not just to show, like, you know, we have our problems and dangers up here, but also, like, I don't know, my heart just really goes out to that family and everyone who was involved in that situation. I just, like, I think it's important to remember those things so we can stay vigilant and make sure it doesn't happen. And then, like, me talking about lack of good climbing trees, that was always a thing. When I got to Minnesota, you know, I'm 18 years old, like, past what most people would probably consider tree climbing age. But I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many trees to climb here. Like, all through college, I was just like, climb all over them. And up here, we've got these skinny birch trees and these spruce trees that are, sticky and pokey and not good for climbing.
Yeah. Yeah. And not really low branches that you could, I mean, they don't
Right.
really, you know, work in the same way. Yeah.
No, they don't. And then, of course, the PFD, you have to mention that when you're talking about Alaska, the permanent fund, because it's just something that's been a part of life up here, you know, forever. I mean, as long as I've been alive, anyway. So.
Yeah. Well, then you have this other one, and it's interesting, the contrast of, and I think it's interesting that you were encouraged to write about Alaska and you were sort of over it. I co-edited an anthology about sibling loss, and my co-editor and friend grew up in Alaska, and she writes about Alaska, and I think she doesn't live there anymore, so it's such a different relationship when you're looking back at some place that it feels formative, but
Hmm.
you're no longer in it, you know?
Yeah.
Because did you know you
Yeah.
were
And I
going to
think
return, or did you think, I'm done with Alaska?
I was pretty sure I was going to return. I wasn't sure about permanently. But by the time I graduated, I was definitely ready to come home.
Mm.
And, with my foray into filmmaking now, I don't see myself here long term,
Mm.
but, my husband and I just have to find the right time and place to get out of here and see what happens. Um, but I think it definitely takes leaving your home to be able to write about it honestly and also to like consistently. I mean, that poem I wrote while I was here, but
Yeah.
I had already been away,
Mm.
and I don't know. I encourage anyone whenever I meet people who have lived in a place their whole life. It's kind of like you know, just like a word I'm searching for. It's like an anthropological kind of like lens. I'm looking at them like, whoa, what specimen are you that you have never left your home? Um, and so it's interesting to me, but I'm also like, please everyone, for the love of everything, yeah, and your life, just like go places that
Mm.
are different than where you grew up. I think that's so important. And this new poem is pretty different in tone, in part because I tried to follow who was the author that
George
wrote
L.
the what?
Lyon.
Right. Yeah, I was not familiar with her work, so I tried to like use the structures of that poem more and get more personal. Like this From poem that
Hmm.
I just read is very much about like Alaska, and it's informed by like specific experiences I had, but that's not necessarily clear from the poem. And this one is a lot more a lot more personal, a little more nerdy and not quite self-deprecating, but definitely reflects on who I am and how I got here. Um, so I guess I'll read this one, which I called Where I'm From. I am from the written word, from Sailor Moon and Scholastic. I am from the goat yard, mucky, pungent, home to ducks and geese and chickens, too. I am from ragged lawns without thick fork snakes. I'm from fishing trips and stubbornness, from Tullys and Skvorcs. I'm from actually, and how come? From science and spook dark. From my parents' laughter when 10-year-old me brought them wine in plastic cups with bendy straws. I'm from churches without labels beyond Christian and Bible. I'm from small town Alaska, moose steak and mac and cheese. And I don't know if that was still kind of a work in progress. I don't know if that'll change or what I will do with that, but that all of that, except for the part about the wine and the bendy straws, is from my early childhood, like age 9 and under. I grew up on the same road. We lived in one house and then moved like 5 miles down the road when I was a little bit older, and so I definitely have a lot of nostalgia for that house and those memories that I had in the first one. Um, And I thought it was important, like generally I don't like to use names in my poems, like reference people or anything,
Hmm.
but I chose to include Tullys and Skvorcs because that reflects my Irish and Croatian background, as you can see. I like Ireland. I've never been there, but
I did wonder. I
um,
was like, okay.
yeah, honestly, that just like when my mother-in-law moved, my husband was helping her clean out things and found this flag that he had from a trip there, or from his sisters, and so I was like, hey, that's my new background. But yeah, let's see, So I mean, obviously I have a lot of Irish on both sides, but I think the closest relation I want to say is on my dad's side, and that's my great grandfather came from Ireland. Or no, my great grandfather came from Croatia, and my great great grandfather came from Ireland um, to
And did
the
they
U.S.
go straight
So
to Alaska, or was that a journey?
no,
Okay.
that's very much just my parents.
Oh, okay.
They grew up out. Well, my mom moved permanently to Alaska when she was 6. Um, and so she spent most of her life here, but my dad did not permanently arrive here until like 1989. And so it's interesting too because Alaska is so much a part of who I am, but like none of my family lives here.
Hmm.
My mom's mom was here until she died, and that was it for extended relatives. The rest of my family is all over the world, mostly the U.S., but and so maybe that also is why I like to travel. It's not like I visit them very much, or some of them I've never met, but I've always had a gravitation towards other places because
Hmm.
I know people, I
Yeah.
guess.
I mean, yeah, I used to travel a lot more than I do now just because of life and just the way, but I still enjoy it wherever I go. It doesn't have to be a big thing, it can be a
Right.
smaller trip too. Like it's just, I just like to walk around, eat food,
Hmm.
just kind of
Yeah.
be there. It's just,
Yeah.
it's nice. It's nice to be reminded that there's all these other people living their own lives all over,
Hmm.
you know. We're not the center of the universe, wherever we
Yeah.
are.
Always good to remind ourselves of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So we'll wrap up, but just I'll ask you my question that I always ask. What was it like writing these poems? And was it different using the prompt or, what was because they're very
Mhm.
different. Like what was your process in
Yeah.
deciding what to write about?
I think, like I said, this newer one, I borrowed a lot of the structure of the
Yeah, the prompt.
existing one that you shared.
Mm-hmm.
The previous poem was a prompt poem but it wasn't that exact one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, they're 10 years apart ish. And so like I have changed as a person since then.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's interesting because like with the first poem, I feel like it was a little more informed by the seriousness of my undergraduate class, like a little
Mm-hmm.
more,
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't know if crafted is the right word because then that makes it sound like the other one I just threw together. But I think, especially since getting my MFA at Antioch, I started in poetry at Antioch and then switched to screenwriting after the first semester. And I realized like how much more I can play in a
Mm-hmm.
poem. There were plenty of guest
Yeah.
speakers we had that are just like, have fun with it. And I think poetry was kind of more of a serious thing to me at
Yeah.
various points. And also in 2020, I wrote a poem every single day of the year. And that really, I think, freed me up to, not try and like make it perfect or whatever when it's coming out and just
Yeah.
let what comes to mind come to mind. And it's fun for me also to think about when I was a little kid. Like when I was sending you those pictures of me, it's like I don't remember some of these, like what was going on at all.
Yeah.
And what you can't tell from that picture and the other pictures is that my sister is in like all of them.
Oh, yeah. But
and
she's
and
just right
so
there. Hmm.
yeah, and she lives in Utah now, and so it's interesting. Definitely also a little nostalgic. Like, oh man, we were. I mean, your parents are obviously going to take pictures of you together because they're like,
Yeah.
oh, look at my cute little children.
Yeah.
But like, oh man, we really used to like do a lot together. We need to
Yeah.
do more. So that's also
Hmm.
motivating my desire to like maybe move. Like if we move, maybe I'll move to Utah just to keep there. Um, but
I
yeah,
mean, our lives are very often very different when we're children than they are.
yeah.
Like the people that we're with and the things that we do. And to me, it's interesting looking back and also what um, seeds that were planted then that are still flourishing and the other ones that were more of circumstance, and I haven't really pursued them in the same way. Like my
Hmm.
relationship to the ocean is still really important to my life, and it always has been. So but then other things, I'm just like, oh yeah, I don't care about that at
Hmm.
all. But I really was
And
into it
I,
when I was 8.
yeah, yeah, Sailor Moon, man, I was obsessed.
Right. Right.
When I
It's
was
like,
that age.
okay. Yeah.
And I guess that's a good thing. It's something I just thought about just now is that like I do have these obsessions about shows and certain like pop culture things that has
Yeah.
like continued, even though it's not that like
Hmm.
I definitely have that as part of my personality, the ability to just like tunnel vision into something for a
Hmm.
long time.
Yeah.
Um,
And
but
sometimes they
so
come
you
later
mentioned,
too. And that's interesting too. Like
mhm,
you maybe, I mean, I really love Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, and the 2005 version, and I've watched so much stuff. I didn't read it till I was 18. Like somebody said, you should read this. I think you'd like it. And I was like, that seems like it's for girls, but I'll try it.
yeah,
It isn't just for girls, but I did like it. It's like, I don't
hmm,
know. I didn't know about this poem until whatever, 5 years ago. And now
hmm,
I've been spending a lot of time thinking about it, talking about it, and listening to it. So I think it's also
hmm,
helpful for me because I want to continue to be like curious and engaged as I grow
hmm,
older, and there's no like end point where you can be
yeah,
that.
yeah, for sure.
What were you gonna say?
Did you grow up in California?
Yeah,
Okay.
I did, but not in LA in Orange County. But I grew up on the water there, and
Okay.
mhm, yeah. And then I left, and I
Yeah.
went to Colorado and Chicago and Seattle, and then I came back.
How'd you like Colorado?
I loved it. I mean, I love Colorado. It was a very difficult time in my life. So when I was
Mm,
living through it, I hated it because I hated
yeah.
it. Being in
Yeah.
high school and what I was going through and what I was dealing with. Um, but it was fun. A friend of mine, her son goes to college there, and I went and we hung out and I drove her around because I lived in Boulder, and I was like, "Look, this is where whatever, how you are when you go back to a place you used to live. I used to do this here and that," and she was very
Hmm.
game, and it was sweet to be back there as who I am now and to give that girl some grace because it was a really, really hard time for me. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a beautiful place. I mean, it's
I don't
lovely.
know how I haven't been there yet. Like that seems like a place that I know a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
Alaskans have been there and
yeah, they do.
etc.
I mean,
But
I think there's a lot
and
of
now,
yeah, and Bend, Oregon.
hmm,
I mean, there are like different places that people. I don't know. There's like a circuit.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Sonoma,
there
yeah,
is. I guess I definitely
yeah.
have some friends who are have lived in Oregon or
Yep,
are going there or
yep.
were at time. But
Yeah, my
um,
friend lives in Maine, the one who grew up in Alaska. And so she's like, yeah, I mean, it's a lot more temperate,
hmm,
which is
Maine's
just
on my
funny
list
for me,
also.
And
Yeah.
did you have all the snow? Because she was saying some of her friends had like 8 feet of snow or something
It
wild like that.
no, our
Okay.
area. Well, I'm trying to think like which time we've had a really like
Oh,
chaotic
like,
winter.
yeah, it
Um,
has been, I mean, the whole kind of even northern, like the border sort of between Canada and the United States, all of that
oh,
has
okay.
been, oh, there's been a lot of snow. Um,
Yeah, actually, I'll bet you she's from Southeast. Um,
yes, I think she's,
because they get a lot of rain, so when it's cold, they get a lot of
yeah.
snow, and yeah. So no, that's I've actually never even been there. I haven't been to Juneau or Sitka or any of
Oh,
the
wow.
towns over there because you have to fly there or
Yeah.
take the ferry,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
they're so small, and it's like I don't have any family in politics or anything, so it's like there's
Right.
no reason for me to go to Juneau, but it's on my list. I'll get there eventually because just
Yeah.
to say that I did.
Yeah.
Um, but
Well,
yeah.
thank you for joining me, Caitlin. Do you have any other last things you'd like to say before we say goodbye?
Well, I will tell people that Allison has an essay in our new book, Spell Check,
Yes.
Lessons Learned from Screwing Up Words, which is coming
Yes.
out at the end of May. So stay tuned for more of that. I'm glad we could connect over that. It's really fun to be
Yeah.
like, hey, you're in my project. Let me be in your project. I'm all
Yes.
about
And
that.
if anyone else from the book wants to join me, they should. Like
Okay.
if you,
Yeah.
when you're sending out emails, feel free to, I mean, anyone is welcome, but it'd be fun to meet
Hmm.
people, even though,
Hmm.
we're just in the book next to each other, but I still think it's fun to.
Yeah,
Put a name with a
absolutely.
face and a essay. I'm
Yeah,
excited to read
at
it.
least most of the people in the book, well, maybe half of them. I don't know. I've never met, and they're Colette's friends. So, yeah, I'm excited for that as well. Still waiting on the print proof, but I will send out more information when I have it,
All right.
including the
Well, I'm
virtual launch.
excited. Yes, I'm very
I don't know
excited.
when that will
And
be, but yeah,
okay. Well, thank you, Caitlin, for
cool.
everything, and we'll communicate soon.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.